What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. I'm your host, Logan Shults. I'm here with my co host, Ian Powell, and a client and friend of mine, Liam Kraus. Gentlemen, how's your last 7 days gone? Liam, let's start with you.
Last 7 days have been good. A little crazy, to be honest with you. We had some things post show kind of happen that were, uh, a little wild. But yeah, so 8 days ago, I competed in the NPC Missouri State Championship. Um, and then where I won my class in Classic Physique Class A, and then I actually went on in the overall and ended up winning that as well. Um, and then, yeah, so then this past week, uh, thankfully, my work, they just so happen to give all of our salary employees um, the first week of July paid off. It's like our reboot week. So it just kind of worked out really good. So I actually took the week of the show off, and then I had this week off just scheduled already. So I had 2 weeks off work, and today traveling home from Fourth of July with my parents, and getting back in the routine and getting everything situated for the week, trying to have another successful week there.
Yeah.
That
Ian?
sounds like a crazy week. Me, haven't been really up to much. Starting to kind of get into the weeds of prep myself. So starting to kind of push along here pretty nicely. 5 new lows in 7 days. So my body moves very, 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 very fast. Still not victim weight yet, which is really nice to see. This time last year, where I was the same conditioning, I was probably about 2 or 3 weeks out from when we stopped our fat loss. So I'm definitely moving along very quickly, and that's kind of the goal. Because I did lose, 5 weeks of time. So, and I,
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried for at first, but then my body really started to say, "Hey, don't worry about it. We'll get you there." So that's been good. Just kind of getting used to the routine of everything, stuff like that. And then contest season starting to pick up a little bit more for me for clients as well. So just try to manage and stay on top of things. And that goes to like Liam's point where, he took the week off or he got the week off before the show or of the show and then the post, like, not always like that, but if you can always make that ideal, especially like that peak week where, I'm telling all my clients now, I'm like, hey man, if you have vacation days, sick days, whatever you can, take a couple. You don't necessarily have to take that whole week off, but Wednesday and beyond, just make it a lot easier on yourself, especially first timers. I got a lot of first timers, so a lot of things to be unexpected. So I always try to be very fully transparent with that process. So yeah, that's basically what's been going on with me. But Liam, kind of want to get back into what you did with your show and stuff like that. So talk about a little bit how long the prep was when you guys started. What was it like? Was it off season into a health phase, or was it health phase into your prep, or just start us off from like the very beginning of the prep?
Yeah, so I guess the best place to start would be like the off season. So this would go all the way back to March of 2025, so a while. That's like Logan and I had started in December of 2024. And then we got into health phase and then went into an off season. And that was cut pretty short due to I had a shoulder injury, and it was just really hard to. It's a difficult injury. It's something that I tore part of my rotator cuff in high school, and then it gives me issues here and there. And it's just where I'm at in Kansas City, it's sometimes hard to find, people that are
Like sports doctors and stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And uh, it was just hard. It was difficult for me to find somebody to like really get some good help. And so eventually I did. And we kind of moved past that. But, we were pretty much at the peak of where everything was in that March. And then we had that go on. And so I, had to come off everything. And it, everything kind of, it kind of messed up everything, so we tried to diet down and, while staying off and just trying to stay healthy and just um after that, I kind of got in a groove and was a little thicker than what we probably would have liked, at the time. And and so that would then put us into like our second off season phase, which would wrap us into another health phase and then into the starter prep. We started at 20 weeks out with, started dieting then. And we did some labs and, I have this weird, skin condition that sometimes causes my, CRP to be elevated. Just because it's an inflammatory thing, and I was having a flare at the time, so my CRP was like 10 or something, wild like that. And so luckily we know, like, and also at the same time, I was dealing with some bad shots for
Mm.
just doing TRT. Like I was having like swollen delts and whatnot.
Was that from like bad oil? Is that bad oil you got?
I don't know. It was a brand that I'd been using for a while, and yeah,
There's
they
a brand that he was using that I use as well. That it seems like everybody I had that used the Sustanon for it
Mm.
had really bad reactions. And I
Stuff.
don't
That's
know if
what
it
you were
was.
using Sustanon. You weren't using like an antidepressant. It was a Sust at the time.
I'd been using Sustanon for a while.
Okay.
I don't really know why, to be honest with you. I just that's what a previous coach had me use, and I never had
Stick
any
with it.
issues, so I just
Yeah,
stuck with it, and
and
Hmm.
I could care less.
yeah, I don't.
As long as we're not injecting, probe, I think for
Yeah,
TRT, it doesn't really matter all that much.
or T400 or something.
Yeah.
But so we had those. So like we for the next 4 weeks we kind of continued prep without using any drugs. And then we got
That was a
blood.
TRT at that point, or was that just nothing? That was
Yeah,
nothing, right?
yeah, that would have been like 150 milligrams a week of test. And then we got labs back at 16 weeks, and everything had dropped pretty significantly because I'd been taking an antibiotic for a month. And so we started then, and um, we started pretty much with what I used in the off season, just at a lower dose, just 500 tests and 250 EQ and 4 IU of growth. And I think it was like the first week we started the growth, I like gained like 6 pounds, and so we're like, okay, like we're good here, and then my drugs, in regards to tests and EQ and GH, didn't change for the next 16 weeks. That all stayed completely the same the whole time. Obviously within the prep, we did use eventually we used some clenbuterol, used some T3, and towards the last 4 weeks, we used a little bit of a whopping 35 milligrams of tren a week, 5 a day.
Hmm.
And the last 2 weeks, I think we had 25 milligrams of Winnie in. So, um, but besides that, like the prep, it's kind of how that was mapped out. So, I was not using, I was using very, very little, I would say, which is awesome. I felt great, physically pretty much the whole time.
Hmm.
We did run into about 10 weeks out, after I got back from a work trip. We kind of ran into some digestive issues. Um, but that was on, just not constipation, not being able to go. It's
Hmm.
very common in prep. Um, and Logan and I, we talked about it, and he was like, let's just change, the structure of your diet. Let's pull your protein down. Let's increase your carbs and your fats, because at the time we had a pretty high protein, low fat, and moderate carb. And so Logan pulled the protein down and increased fats and increased carbs, and I think that was at like 8 or 10 weeks, Logan, something like that.
Something like that. I couldn't tell you exactly when without looking at things.
Okay.
And yep, go
So
ahead.
wait, hold off on the. I want to get into the intricacies of like the nutrition
Yeah, yeah,
side of
yeah,
things, but I
for
just
sure.
wanted to relay this for people. I was like, I'm a big proponent of being a little bit more conservative for drugs, especially if it's a regional show. There's really no need to push people or push yourself beyond a certain threshold, and it's just going to create more stress for people. So I think your approach is, it's very similar to, what I did in my off season. That what you explained, my Winstrol trend was my off season essentially. I just used that 200 EQ, 500 tests, and I think I went up to 6 IUs of GH. That was my main driver. I use GH instead of actually more
Yeah.
oils instead. So I think that's a pretty safe for people to, when they're going into a prep, not to necessarily throw everything, especially if you're doing regional, 35, 70 milligrams of tren, you're going to be fine
Yeah.
on these things. So let's start off what your training days or maybe your training rest days, your low days, whatever, however you set it up. Let's start off at like 16, break it down, and then 12, 8, and then let's do like the final 4. So we can start off at,
Okay.
because prep really started for you at like 16, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so let's start there.
we had started to pull things down at
We
20.
yeah, we
We
started
just
pretty
didn't do it with
aggressively
drugs.
actually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then start from where you were at your at before 20 weeks, and then go into 12 weeks. How about that? 20 to 12,
Yeah. Um,
if you can remember.
yeah, I can't exactly remember off the top of my head here. Logan might be able to pull something up, but the whole reason I mentioned, all the way back to that previous March was to kind of, to kind of say like I was not in the best spot to start a prep, because we did start that second section of our off season a little bit thicker than what we probably would have liked. We
Hmm.
weren't really able to push my food up very much.
Yeah.
In that period. So it was a lot of it just wasn't, ideal. Like in that March prior, I was eating probably I would honestly bet like over 1,000 calories more a day. And just because I had that room at that time, to keep pushing up. And so going into there, I would assume that we were around like 275 protein, 350 carb, 400 carb, and 70 fat or something like that. And as the prep went, and I told Logan, usually in the past, from what I've seen with myself, is if I don't start pretty hard off the rip, um, it takes a while. It takes a good chunk of time for me to like really get going. And it had been over a year since I had really dieted hard. So,
Hmm.
and I feel like anytime that is the case, those first few weeks your body's kind of fighting you. It's used to
Yeah.
wanting to, push up and whatnot. And so coming back down, usually it seems like it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, if you have somebody that like hasn't dieted in a while or actually cut or hard dieted in a while, it's definitely easier to be more aggressive. They have more body fat, they have more calories to pull from. You give somebody that's a little bit more tighter in their off season, or they go from a shorter off season, you can actually diet them a little bit more, right? You don't have to diet them as hard. So you see that with many different people. So I'm kind of the same way, especially if I was in that situation, just pull it off. You have plenty of body fat, you're going to be fine with the recovery. It's when you get a
Yeah.
little leaner and the lower body fat that becomes more of the issue there. So go ahead and continue on.
Yeah. And then I don't feel like we really made like too many food cuts throughout. We did. I would probably say in that, yeah, around that 12-week mark, we started pulling food, and I had probably my lowest food around that 12-week mark actually, or what felt like my lowest food, because
Right.
I, in those four next 4 weeks, and that's where we pushed pretty hard. My cardio was probably at the highest at that point too, which wasn't ever excessive. It was 30 minutes on training days, 50 minutes on rest days. But oftentimes, around that period, I think we would start checking in twice a week, maybe. Um, And, oftentimes one of those rest days would be a complete rest day. He'd tell me, take it. So that one of those 50-minute sessions wasn't even really getting done.
Mm.
And
Yeah, so it looks like at 20 weeks out, we had a rest day and a training day plan. We were at about 2,900 calories on a rest day with 270 protein, 260 carb, 85 and a half fat. A training day was just under 3,500 calories with 278 protein, 438 carbs, and 67 and a half fat. We dropped about 400 calories a day in that first pull. But at some point, we did go. There were some issues around your schedule with training where you weren't certain. Like sometimes you would think you were going to train and then you weren't able to train.
And
So
that
we,
was I think remember I think that's when we were messing with my CRP and we didn't want to train legs for like 3 or 4 weeks because of the high
yeah,
demand,
maybe
Inflammation.
I just remember we changed it to like three low, one high,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then what ended up happening is that those calories were just too low on the lows and uh, too high on the highs, and so we kind of evened it out and went back to a rest day, training day
yeah.
plan.
And at that time too, that I think we at that time we were doing that rotation, and I those low days, after our third low day, we did our high day, and I lost weight,
Yeah,
and we did that five
like
days
five or
in a
six days
row,
in a row. Yeah,
and I lost weight every single time. And then where Logan was like, "All right, let's just go back to training day and rest day," So instead of low and high, because they were the same diet, it was just we were running 3 low days and then one high day. So we just went back to a training day and non-training day, and the fat loss continued. So yeah, that was a part of prep where something happens and you didn't expect it even, at all. It was like we were pushing and I was feeling it, and then we put in this high day and it was like another one, another one. I just remember Logan just saying another one. I was just like, holy cow, when is, I feel,
Stop. Please stop feeding me.
yeah, yeah. I was like, when is this gonna end? I was like, I feel
well,
like,
in reality, like I gave him a high day, but I didn't pull his cardio, and I didn't. What he really needed was he needed a higher high day, and he needed to pull cardio, and we probably could have gotten away with 1 or 2 days, right?
Mm.
But
Yep.
the high day that was scheduled just wasn't quite high enough, so we ended up having to do 4 or 5 days in a row. But nothing was indicating, like none of his biofeedback was indicating that he needed this, right? Like he felt good. He was training. His training was good. He didn't feel fatigued. So
Mhm.
it was like, um, it was like, okay, well, let's just give you a high day. Let's see what happens. Well, his weight dropped. Okay, fuck it. Do it again. Like, if it's working, do it again. So in retrospect, I could have probably sped that up and only done like 2 days of high days. Just pulled the cardio all together, and it would have worked better. But the end result came out the same, so it didn't really matter.
yeah.
So
And then
what were the lowest that you got to as far as your calories? You said it was in that 12 to 8 week out mark. You
I
said
would
that
assume
was your
so.
lowest.
And that's where towards the end of that, I would assume like
And
that
then you
eight,
started just doing the high days, right? Then you started adding the high days in.
yeah, and that's what around that 12 to 8 week mark is when Logan made the change, the nutrition change, the like macro change and pulled the protein down and added carbs and uh fats to both days. Uh Fats got really low there for a while.
Yeah.
Like probably I think if I remember right, like 28 grams or something like that a day.
Yeah. I'm a big fan, especially for dudes doing like a pretty low fat diet and then just
Yeah.
add in fats or higher refeeds when they needed. We don't
Yeah.
really need a ton of fat. Like it's just like,
Yeah, I
necessary for
mean,
us.
based on what I'm seeing, just real quick looks. First off, your fat was never 25 grams. 46 is the lowest I have.
Really?
Um, Yeah.
Dude, you're fucking gaslighting your coach.
No, no.
Uh, but I mean, on May 23rd, which was, you know, I don't know. At this point, I was probably just telling him add 100 grams of carbs,
Uh-huh.
things like that.
Yep.
So a rest day was 22:58. A training day was 24:33. So he still had almost 300 grams of carbs on a training day and 200 grams of carbs on a rest day.
Yep. Yep. I think that's right after that change that you made. So that was is protein at like 220 or 205
201.
there. Yep.
Yeah.
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 So that would have been
205. Yeah.
right after the change. So yeah, that
It would have been
and
pretty far after the change because that was May 23rd.
yeah. So that would have been
That
right
was like
around.
5 weeks out.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And my food never got lower than that. So,
No, actually, it just increased.
yeah, increased towards the end.
Weekly calories, anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, it was just a lot, just staying consistent. At least for me, personally, I'm a person I would rather, give like more output, so steps might increase, once or twice in there, but, and then, uh,
Mostly when he told me, "Hey, dude, by the way, I did 20,000 steps yesterday."
That's quite excessive. That's a,
yeah, yeah,
it's easy to get carried
well,
away with steps though. You just go
I
for
think
a
he's
yeah.
walk
count.
or get
I think he's
busy.
counting every.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, bro, you're supposed to take the watch off when you do that. That's
Brother,
cheating.
brother, I couldn't even tell you the last time I even, you know, it's still,
So
it's still,
That EQ crushed him.
Yeah.
no, no, it's not that. It's just, my joints, everything feel great still. So, but, I guess, yeah, so it's kind of boring, it's like, it didn't, after around like the 8 week mark, it was just more of just the same every day and just honestly just doing the everyday shit and just
Just ticking the boxes, right?
yeah, it really was, man. And just uh, there was never a day where I went to bed and I was like I didn't do enough today, like, and it was I checked every box, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to training, and in regards to those things to get me to the in goal. Now there are some things, in retrospect that I wish, I would have done a little more of, maybe posing, doing a little more posing practice or having somebody
Mhm.
look at me, that, I trusted. But halfway through the prep as well, I changed gyms because we bought a house. And I was just at that point in prep where I just wanted to be alone in the gym. I just wanted to be focused on myself. And I didn't want to talk to anybody. And so, and it was great because I went to a new gym and I
Nobody
nobody
knows
knew
you.
me, and so I just stayed covered up and I just had my headphones on and nobody talked to
Yeah.
me. And then towards the end, when you start getting pretty lean and you want to look at yourself a little bit in the mirrors and stuff, and then people start coming up to you and talking to you, and you're like, fuck, yeah, I can't even. Now it's like I had this so good from 10 weeks to 4 weeks, and now 4 weeks I'm like I'm just want to see what things are looking like for myself, and now I got people talking to me, trying to just
It's
ask
so
questions,
annoying.
and you're like,
It's so
I didn't
annoying
mean
when you
like
do that.
that, but it's like at
Yeah.
4 weeks out, that's usually when you're feeling like close to your worst, and it's like,
You're just irritable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing too is like during this prep, I definitely have, just gained a lot more appreciation for the gym and bodybuilding as well. It's so easy when you're in the off season and comfortable, and whatnot, to take it for granted and take how good you feel, for granted. And when you're in prep and it's like the thing that you usually love the most in being in the gym, towards the end, it feels like a chore almost, it feels like you have to go in there and just check this box and to you now be post show and feel better. It's like, man, you, I just feel so grateful,
Mm.
that that I'm past that point now, as much as you love it, I got into bodybuilding because I love training the most, and it's sometimes, a difficult thing to go through when the thing that you love the most kind of doesn't feel the same anymore. So, um, I'm grateful to be past that point. And I'm looking forward to this next phase as well too. So
I think that's one of the things, like when you're in prep, and especially like 8 weeks and 6, 4, 3, it speeds up really once you get to 6 weeks out. Everything just becomes a blur. I feel like, you take things for granted, but it is intense. Like everything's intense. Life becomes a little bit more intense. Paying attention to smaller things in your life, like family, friends, relationships, loved ones, stuff like that, becomes more intense. Like your ability to withstand those bandwidths become a little bit more narrow. And then, that bittersweet when you're post show and you're done, especially if you do it right and you just can relax, and it's just the weight feeling off is, probably one of the best feelings ever, is that like 4 to 6 weeks post show where you can just kind of breathe and you can start paying back some of the dividends that maybe your wife, family, kids, friends, people that believed in you, gave to you during that prep, and you can actually just reap the benefits of it. Because sometimes, I don't know, I mean, I'm not like my normal self for sure in prep, but that's kind of just it's par for the course. Some people understand that. The more you do it, I feel like people will understand that, especially those in your closest circle to you will understand what that goes through and what that kind of can feeling sometimes be. Because, like, irritable, you get, maybe distance, maybe more quiet. Some people rage, some people get really angry or get like really frustrated. I think us here are probably a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quiet, a little more, irritable for sure. But like, we know that just go fuck off for a little bit. Just go hang out by yourself for a little bit. It'll all blow over. Just give yourself some time. But yeah, so you win the overall. So what's next? There's no
yeah,
national show this year. Is there an off season? Is there a national show next year? Because we're all here for the hunt for the
yeah,
pro card, right? Or at
yeah,
least what I say is a hunt for the pro physique. So
yeah. So I've kind of gone back and forth with that. So I think, we're definitely going to shut it down for a while. I'm not saying that I can't envision nationals or North Americans being in the picture this year unless, I mean, I don't really know. With Logan and I really, I've told him what I would like to see happen, but at the same time, I'm keeping avenues open. If in the perfect world, Ian, to be honest with you, that would be my last classic physique show. And I would, go into this reverse here and get healthy and go into an extended off season period and turn into a light heavyweight bodybuilder. And that's a very long, lofty process, because coming from class A, I'm the last height in class A, so I'm over 5'6", but under 5'7", so I can be 182 pounds. And Logan and we didn't really have to do too much manipulating. We kind of loaded a little bit heavier at the beginning of the week, and then towards the end, we kind of just lightened it up. And then the day of the show or the day of weigh-ins, um, I had 2 meals prior, and a decent amount of fluid, and I was 181.4. So it's not like we really had to do anything too crazy to make weight, by any means. So it's a lofty goal for sure. I just don't know. I just don't want to limit myself. I told you this past, how this past year off season went when I wasn't able to push things, how what makes bodybuilding fun, at least to me. Like in the off season, what's fun to me is eating a lot of food, training really hard, and being able to like push your body weight up. And during that time, we weren't able to do that. And so I don't want to go into an off season with the mindset of let's only grow in certain areas because we do have a weight cap that we're going to have to stay under, you know. Yeah. So I've told Logan, like, let's act like that's the goal, and then next year if we diet down and we feel like classic is still achievable, then we'll do that, Um, but if it's not, then either, we'll just diet down to a nice 4 to 6 week out mark and then repeat the process again,
It's
just,
Yeah,
lofty goals. I
realistic.
like it though.
yeah,
Realistically, I think that we could probably put on 5, maybe 6 pounds of muscle tissue and still squeeze him into that classic if he wanted to. To be a light heavyweight, what light heavyweight weight cap is 198?
yeah,
Yeah. So to be a good light heavyweight, he needs another 15, 20 pounds of tissue.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
minimum.
yeah,
Yeah. And then that also does need to be in the right places, like,
Hmm.
adductors. We need arms up are really good, but arms from the side, like from the side and like a side chest, um, and then obviously just kind of everywhere else.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that would be the most ideal situation for me. Just because that's the part of bodybuilding I love the most, man. I just love being in the gym. I love being able to to be able to do new things in there, and I just love training. And I just kind of explained like how we see when we're going the opposite way down, it becomes a chore sometimes. And so it's not that I want to avoid that or anything. It's just the period that is not as enjoyable for me. So I would like to do the part that's a little more enjoyable for longer, So
I
I
actually
think,
think I like prep more than the off season.
yeah, I mean, it's a devil's advocate kind of two-handed
Yeah.
sword there
yeah,
based off
yeah.
of who you are and what you're doing.
Especially
But
you, especially you when you're eating like 800 grams of carbs a day, and it's like,
me,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I'm a fat boy. Yeah, at heart,
Yeah,
I feel like.
so it's funny too. Logan had mentioned, or you had asked about where my food was the last off season, and it was like 275 protein. It was 365 carb and like 80 fat or something like that.
Hmm.
My food already is like 220 protein, 475 carb on training days, and 55 fat. And as of this morning, I was like, after the 4th of July too, I was like 3 pounds above stage weight. So everything is exactly, exactly.
Yeah, normally I don't remove T3 right away. Normally I leave it
Keep it in
in
there.
and then taper it down. Yeah, but he lasted about 2 days and we had to pull the T3.
Yeah. So
So,
post show, I had this plan. I had this plan. I was very, very, because you see all the time people lose control post show.
Yep.
And so I had this plan. I actually talked to you about the plan, and was just wanted to run it by, and it was some people that it trusted, and just was like, hey, what do you think about this? I didn't want to be too restrictive, but I didn't want to, be too much. And so I had this plan, and I executed very well on that plan. Everything kind of, went exactly how, and um, got back on Monday morning took my check-ins, and, Logan was like, hell yeah, like this is awesome. Um, and 2 days later, 2 days later, I wake up 4 pounds below my stage weight.
Mm.
And I'm like,
1 pound new low. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, and he was like, okay, let's add in some food here. And it just so happened to be a rest day. And he's like, let's add in 100 grams of carbs today, no cardio, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And I had been all day, like, just feeling damn tired. And like, it felt like I was eating my meals and like nothing was entering my body. That's what it felt like. And I was like, what the hell? Because he had increased my food a decent amount from where it previously was. I think it was like 400 or 500 calories. So I was like, what the hell is going on? And I had 4 meals, and I just hopped out of the shower, and I was like, let me just check my weight and just see where we're at, because I had 4 meals and like 5 liters of water at that time. And I checked, and I was like 3 pounds above what I woke up. And I usually flush like 4.5 to 5 pounds overnight.
Mm.
And so I messaged Logan. I was like, hey man, like I'm, I've added in a decent amount of the food already. And, uh, I'm only, I'm gonna lose, another pound or two, overnight. And he was like, and I kind of vocalized to Logan prior, I wanted to keep it pretty tight post show, and he was like, "Are you willing to have a cheat meal?" And I was like, I was like, if that's what it's gonna fucking take for my weight not to drop, 2 pounds of, another, then I will. And he was like, okay. He was like, I want you to go to Five Guys, and I want you to get 2 burgers and a regular fry. Or actually, he said a large fry, and I was like, well, can I get a regular fry and like a little dessert, And he was like, do it. I don't give a fuck. He's like, you need some food. And so I went and I went and I ate the food, and we woke up and I was pretty much my stage weight again. And then after that big meal, my body kind of like chilled out a little bit, and um, hasn't dropped back down below there since. And we've just been kind of slowly coming back up now. So
That's also the day we pulled out his whole whopping 12.5 micrograms of T3.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'd have been like, go get a burger and fry, you skinny fuck. I don't want to see a low on
Yeah.
the scale ever again.
yeah,
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 I think it was a bit of a learning. It gave me the opportunity to know what I need to communicate moving forward, because I knew he needed more food that weekend, right? Because if if I gave him anything less than an additional 300 grams of carbs, he was dropping and hitting a new low.
Hmm.
So I knew that the day before the show, I wasn't giving him that additional 300 grams of carbs, because at later in the evening time he was above where we needed to be for him to weigh in at, right? And so I didn't hold him back completely, but it wasn't the same, right? It was lower, still a lower amount of food up to that point than what he actually needed to be on. And so then his weight came down and he ended up hitting like that 179 mark. And so I kind of knew that like post show he really does need to eat a bit extra. Um, and I told him like, I think I communicated and I said something like, it's not going to hurt you. Like you can have some extra food and this one time is not going to hurt you. Um, but he stuck to his plan, and that was fine. I think in hindsight, I would have communicated like, "Hey, you were heading down. We need to stop that trajectory, and you need to get some really fatty foods in you."
yeah.
Processed
It,
foods.
yeah, I think a burger and fries and some dessert is kind of a really good thing to do, because it's still whole foods, right? And we're just getting a little bit fattier, more sodium, things like that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a learning process for me. And now that I know that I need to be like, if I know they need more food, I really need to communicate like, go eat this,
Yeah.
because normally after Saturday, I just kind of let them do what they want Saturday night, Sunday. You've been doing exactly what I tell you for the last 20 weeks, so I like for them to have a little bit of freedom there. But in Liam's case, I should have communicated a little bit better that he needed a lot more food that night
Yeah,
or the next day.
I think it's a prerequisite for somebody if you get to a conditioning where you have glutes like Liam, you have more runway with food, especially right off the bat. You're not going to instantly poof and get fat. Now, if you didn't get glutes like that, or if you didn't get super conditioned, you're going to lose that conditioning pretty fast. But
Yeah,
it all really depends on what your conditioning that you achieved. If you achieved excellent stage conditioning, the national level stage conditioning is really kind of required, you have some leeway and you really do need to feed up because that body is really not going to supposed to be there. So I'm a big proponent of just trying to feed people, especially somebody like Liam, who's, he's probably going to get in shape faster than most people, and he's going to be able to handle a bit more food than most people too, right? So, good learning for both of you guys. So whenever you guys do another contest or whatever it is, I mean, Liam, you can feed the machine, and you're not gonna spill
yeah,
them over, So, which is all really, really good data. But no, man, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what you look forward to what you do next, whether it's hopping in to North Americans to me or doing a national show later this year, or fucking go to light heavyweight. Maybe I'll go there one day, but probably not.
One day,
Um,
come on, you're real close. Come on,
uh,
Ian.
I
We
don't know
know.
about that.
are you
No,
pushing your weight cap this year, Ian?
probably a little bit more. So
Where are you at
yeah.
right now?
Conditioning wise, I'm where I was at when I was about 184, 185, and I'm 202.
And your cap is
I'm trying to get to the 194 cap because that's where I'm supposed to
okay.
be. But if they hire me at
189.
187,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a bit more trouble
I
getting there.
keep telling people, fucking inversion table, dude.
I don't know. I'm gonna fucking buy one. Jesus
Stretch.
Christ!
Inversion, yeah.
Especially if I run into a fucking real issue this year, I'm gonna definitely buy one.
Dude,
You
But
should buy one.
I think I should be
Faces
okay.
Marketplace, they're free on there all the time. Old people
Yeah,
buy
dude.
them and they're like, I
I don't
can't
like this.
do this thing
Yeah.
anymore.
Like this
I'm
is for
telling
my.
you, I'm gonna repeat this over and over and over again. You lay on that dude a couple of times a week, do like 2 sets of 30-second hangs, and it will help.
I believe it. No, I mean, I've heard plenty of people use it, so this is let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But but I'm very excited. Thank you for all the information, Liam, all the
Yeah.
details.
I feel
I
like it
think
was
it
kind
really
of
helps out a lot of people.
sorry to interrupt. I feel like it was kind of all over the place. I kind of skipped around, but hopefully
It's
everybody
okay.
can kind of piece together the
Yeah,
thing.
there's a lot of first timers, a lot of people that are interested and curious, and it's been a while since you stepped on stage, so not really first timer, but it's been a while since you've been in
Yeah.
that shape, so it's or ever, so it's always good data. Good data is always good, but you know, maybe we'll get you on here in a little bit and see how either the off season's going or how your whatever's next for you, man.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I love getting on here with you guys. Last time we did the Olympia predictions, and I know all of our predictions were horrendous in
I don't even
hindsight.
remember. That was a week
A
after my
long
show.
time
I
ago.
was like, I don't
Yeah.
fucking know. I was like, I'm gonna start doing. So, I'm not watching that shit.
Well, all right, gentlemen. I'm thinking that we can do like, get several of the guys on to maybe do some Olympia talk this year once that time rolls around. Yeah, I
Getting
think that would be
close.
fun. But I think that's it for today, huh?
I
Any
think
more
that's it.
questions? That's it?
I'm good.
Sounds good.
All right, gentlemen. Y'all have a wonderful one.
Yep, you too, buddy.